Hi, this is Billy Cochran, and this is my EDT560 Tech Assessment project. And I'll make the case for using Google Doc Forms as a really great form of 21st century assessment. So, why Google Doc Forms? Well, Google Doc Forms create a terrific assessment that can target specific needs for each individual student. I've used Google Doc Forms to really target weaknesses and interventions, and it gives you immediate feedback so you can take action immediately in the classroom, which an intervention is extremely important, as we know. They're easy to make. They come in different forms, so you can add questions such as in a way with simple text, paragraph long text, multiple choice, checks boxes, using from a list, scales, and even grids. So these multiple forms allow for choice that makes sense for the teacher who's assessing. It's effective and efficient for that teacher. We know as teachers that we need to have assessment that's easy for us to use in the moment. So I really believe that Google Doc Forms creates a platform for that. They can be shared with teachers, administrators, and parents. This, in my opinion, is terrific because you can track the data from K through 12. So tracking data is easy for K through 12. It compiles the data for all interventions, grades, whatever they may have had in kindergarten, for example, and that will follow them into first, second, third, and all these docs are shared. It can be grouped and put into different folders and organized. That's easy to read and presentable for all teachers. So we're really seeing a nice scope and sequence over time, over years. And we know looking at data long term really shows progression of a student. So this is a phenomenal way to keep track of those types of data. And lastly, it's free. It's free for educators. That's why I have a lot of admiration for Bill Gates. This is a service that he charges quite a bit of money for businesses. However, if you're a district or a school interested in using Google, you just go through the application process, and this is provided for free. I actually just went through this process for my school about 2 weeks ago. I'm waiting to hear back. jamesonschool.org, we have that reserved, so all our students will have emails, parents will have emails, teachers. We're hoping to have the blessing of our superintendent to maybe pilot this, but for now, I'm going to investigate a little further what Google Apps will do. And the biggest concern really is about privacy. We want to make sure that our students are protected. So, some suggested uses. I'll briefly explain some of these uses, and these are hyperlinked here. And we'll actually go into these websites and take a quick look at some of them. And let's give you some concrete examples of how you can actually use these in your classroom, because for me that's what it's all about, sharing resources. Let's get our hands dirty and let's get to work. So, get to know your class. You can use this form to gather some indication from your new class about their likes and dislikes, their favorite lessons, or after-school clubs and enjoyment. And this will help you get to know your students and build relationships with trust. I took these from a guy named Tom Barrett. I found his website when I was searching Google Doc Forms months back, and he's got some terrific resources on how to use these, and you can take a look here. Here's his website, http://tbarrett.edublogs.org. I will have this PowerPoint presentation on my mrcmain.com website, so you'll be able to come through and check out all these hyperlinks yourself. Here's just an example. Class name, what is your favorite subject, what is your least favorite lesson, what subject would you say you were really good at. And good teachers know, if you want to be an effective teacher, you need to get to know your students. They need to know that we care. That's the first step in being a teacher. It's not about, oh, let's hop into the academics, let's get dirty. It's not about that. It's about getting to know your students at the beginning of the year. So you can create lessons that play to their strengths or be aware of their weaknesses. And maybe you'll find patterns with a questionnaire like this. Maybe you'll start to find that, hey, you know what? 90% of the class said their favorite subject was science. So, makes sense for you as the teacher to create, maybe integrate some science within your reading and writing workshops, wouldn't it? So an emotion graph is a simple line graph comparing a range of happiness to sadness at different points of the story. So this will help students visualize a story in a different way. This example form here will help you gather children's responses to different part of any type of linear narrative, written or visual. So I talked about some of the options with the Google Doc form, and here we have a scale. So this is a 0 to 10 scale. So we can talk about emotions, and what will be nice here is this data will be compiled for the entire class. We can start to see percentages, and later I'll show you some examples of some of the when we start to get into digging with the data. Well, what does the data mean? I'll start to show you some examples of where we'll see these results. Here's some examples. His wife leans in and kisses him. He closes his eyes. What do you remember? 0 would be really sad, unhappy, and then 10 is really joyful. So we start to see different perspectives of students and how they interpret the characters and their reactions and their feelings. Next. Spelling test. This is just a really simple form. You can use a form for your weekly spelling test and ask children to type their answers as you read the word list. Once submitted, you have the form that's already corrected for them. So this saves you valuable time and energy. You don't have to go through every quiz and see if they spelt it right. The computer will do it for you with the spell check. It's terrific. This is a really easy, simple test to correct. The data will be sent directly back to the students. It's instantaneous, and they'll know if they got what they got right and what they got wrong on the spot. So you can go back and look at, oh, well, let's just see, number 2. Well, I had, 40% of students got this one wrong. So you can start to see percentages of who got, comparing all the entire class together, which is really valuable data. Maybe you didn't spend a lot of time on that vocab word, and it just was something that they didn't get. So you can go back and revisit those words and make connections to their life of what those words mean to students, and maybe that way they'll start to remember those types of words. Next, comprehension questions. Comprehension. So this is a great way to save and collate responses, share with classmates, and view some answers on the smartboard. This can be used for a formal test or possibly just to spark some sort of classroom discussion. This is a P&O comprehension form. The teacher uses a few different options. Here's a checklist form. What did the boy receive as a present? So students need to select the correct answer right there. And then students have the chance to actually give some written responses at the bottom. And what I like what the teacher did here was they had them watch a YouTube film and then answer the questions below. So, we're talking about some of the media-driven pieces of the Common Core. Watching a piece of media and responding using technology for the entire process. These are the type of skills, 21st century skills, that our students need. And lastly, a weekly reading record. Take a look here. So, teachers can give their reading record through Google Doc forms. This is just a simple form here, given the name, the date, the book title, page numbers, in a section for comments. Just a simple reading record form. You can adapt yours however you'd like it for your classroom that fits your needs. More suggested uses. Math data collection. Here we go. When we look at the Common Core and the EDT docs, we know students need to collect and analyze data using digital tools. Standard 4 from the EDT doc, critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making, states students use critical thinking skills to plan and conduct research, manage projects, solve problems, and make informed decisions using appropriate digital tools and resources. So, Google Doc forms are a perfect way to collect and analyze data to identify solutions and or make informed decisions, a skill expected of Standard 4. Right here, this is just a simple data collection sheet about us. Name, shoe size, height, favorite color, eye color, hair color, right or left-handed. And again, this would be a great form to pop up on the smartboard and take a look at the data. And the teacher could ask a variety of questions to compare and contrast this data. This could be done in the classroom, and also students could set out to do this on a whole school level. Guided reading record. Teachers can collect guided reading records for the entire year. This is terrific for small group instruction. In this example, the teacher takes the session date, the literacy group, text type or unit and pages that you read. He outlines session objectives, targets, and the focus. A checkbox is used to show what evidence was collected. And then finally, group and individual notes are provided. Let me scroll down so you can see that. And really, this will give you the chance to take a look at your guiding reading records over the course of the year. Keeps them nice and organized. And again, they can be shared. Next, prior learning assessment. This is a great tool to use prior to kicking off a unit to assess what your students may already know about a subject. When you read over these responses from your students, you'll be finding patterns of strengths and weaknesses that will help you target certain student needs, group the right students together, and find certain students to help be leaders who may have quite a bit of knowledge about a topic already. This may help with some students who have behavioral issues. If you find they have quite a bit of knowledge of a given topic, you can lean on them to be the class expert. So instead of drawing constant negative attention, they'll be getting attention in a positive way. And this is just a simple initial assessment of ancient Egypt. What do you know about the country of Egypt? Where is Egypt? What do you think ancient means? Scrolling down here. What are the Great Pyramids? What else do you know about ancient Egyptians? Okay, this is just a terrific way to kick off a unit, and most importantly, get to know your students. What do they know? Where will this take my instruction? What do they need to know? What do they already know? How can I build off their strengths? How can I build off their weaknesses? Really gets you to start thinking about your mini lessons and where you need to go. Library book review. Here we are. For all you librarians out there, this one's for you. Check this report out. With so many classes coming in and out of your library, this is a nice way to bring all the book report learning into one central location. Another cool idea for these book reviews, you could start a Google Hangout to discuss book reports and then send them off to actually do their book review. So, if you give your students a book report, you can set up an online Hangout area. A Google Hangout allows for group video discussion, so you can actually see everyone there on their built-in video camera. Awesome stuff. This is a great idea for teachers also, who may give out some homework. They might have certain nights where they sign online and they are available in the Hangout to answer tough questions from the homework. And really, people, this is the future of learning. Time in the classroom should be spent exploring and getting hands dirty, workshop model. While the time outside of the classroom can be spent giving online lectures and mini lessons. So let's take a look at this form. We have the author, book title, genre. What do you enjoy most about the book? What did you enjoy least? What would you rate this book? So again, we can start to take and compare the data. As you're seeing that pattern here, we can compare the data across what all the students thought of this certain book. That's where it's going to give us our best feedback, and we can really decide and rate these types of books. And the teacher could take this information and put it right onto their classroom, to their library website. And also, a teacher could put this on their classroom website. Learning success, or this is an evaluation feedback. Let's take a look. How can we know if a lesson was really well received by students if we don't hear back from them? I believe this is the most overlooked issue by many teachers. Your students are probably bored because you're probably not engaging them. And no, it is not their fault, it's the teacher's fault. So this is a terrific forum to get some feedback and will help the teacher reflect and revise based on what their students feel. This right here, to me, is very crucial and important, especially to me. We have to find out what our students thought of our teaching. Okay, what we teach and how we deliver the instruction isn't always the best way. We may think it is in our minds as teachers, because we're the teacher, but that's not the case. Okay? Simple question starts out. Did you enjoy that lesson? Yes or no, point blank. What did you enjoy the most about the lesson? What did you not enjoy? And then we have a scale here. How confident do you feel about what we are doing? So we can see, are we ready to move on? You might have a group of students that I need lots more practice. So at this point, you could pull out, let's just say, you had 4 students in a class that said they were on a level like 1 or 2. You can start to group those students for a more intense small group instruction. So we're differentiating here. We can bring these students into a small group, give them some more direct instruction and get them feeling confident, find out what areas they're not confident in, and let's get them back, let's get them on track. How much effort did you put into this lesson? Let's see. Maybe students just weren't engaged and they didn't put much effort in. How much of a challenge was the activity for you? Are we challenging our students? Our students want to be challenged. If you could change one thing about the lesson, what would it be? Again, all these questions help you take a look at your lesson and see where you can make improvements. And this is very important. I think really at the heart of what teachers don't do often enough is figure out how their students really enjoyed their lessons. Google Doc Forms transforms how you approach this. Makes it very easy for you to take a look at all the data across not just your classroom. If you're a social studies teacher, for example, in middle school and you have 100 students, how can you sit down and compile all this data? You can't. It's tough. But if you give them a form like this, you get instant feedback on how confident they are, how much effort did they put in, what a challenge was this. This data is invaluable and it'll help you inform your instruction going forward. So, RTI intervention uses. These are some forms that I've actually made myself. Let's just take a look at the first one. This is an activities log. This is just a simple keeping track of, we met twice a week, just keeping track of what they were doing, the attendance, are they there, activities, what did we do, what did we work on for computation. Next, this is from my audio video technology project-based learning group. I have my attendance here. Again, with interventions, it's really in anything, obviously at school, you want to keep close attendance. If, for example, if Julian wasn't at school for half the intervention, how can I, and he's not performing as expected, well, there's an indication of why he's not performing. He's not at school. So it's really important to keep track of attendance. Then I have a slot here for lesson name. And this is our Jameson Technology Standards, Objectives, and Performance Indicators. This was created by our technology team. And we use the ITSI-S as our framework. So I can hone in on, I can keep track of all the specific standards that we're trying to hit for each lesson. I have daily notes for each student. And this intervention is an 8-week intervention, and it's specifically targeting communication and collaboration skills, which we know are important 21st century skills. So right here, I have each student's communication and collaboration on a scale for a daily basis. If I graded JR4 here, for example, a level 1, I could come up into the notes and say, level 1, and give my reason. JR was in a bad mood today. He did tell me he didn't eat his breakfast, so maybe that's why he was snappy with his friends and not communicating so well. So I can give specific notes for that day so I know exactly, I can start digging and knowing exactly why he might not have been communicating well that day. Okay? And as you can see, I have this option for all the kids that are in the small group intervention. At the end of the day, submit. goes back to my database. I have all the information. Any of you that use LLI out there, let me show you what I've done with these forms. This might look familiar to you. Lesson number at the top. This is an odd numbered lesson running record because the odd and evens, if you know LLI, run different on the 4 things you do each day. Here's my attendance again. I always keep track of the attendance. I have 2 students in this LLI group. We meet for half an hour each day. First, we're rereading books. So here I have a section for notes on rereading. Next, we do some phonics or word work. On the odd days, we read a new book, third. And then lastly, we finish up with some letter or word work. So this is an odd numbered lesson day. And I also have the same form for an even numbered lesson day. And this should all look familiar. LLI provides a sheet for you to actually write these in. So I've just taken the exact sheet the LLI provides and I transformed it into a Google Doc form. Reading Skills Inventory Checklist. This is a checklist I use for my internship for my English Second Language certification at USM. And it's just a simple reading performance checklist, and we'll look at some data from this in a moment. I will say I learned a valuable lesson here. What I was really doing was taking a look at too many things. Okay, I would recommend simplifying this form. So we're looking at reading strategies, but I'm also looking at comprehension, participation, and attitude. There was just too much to evaluate each day. What I should have done is chunk this down a little bit. So one day be looking for reading strategies. Next day be looking at right here, reading performance. And another day looking at comprehension and story retelling. And then in another form looking at participation and attitude. It became overwhelming, and I learned a valuable lesson, and I didn't change this up for the purpose of this project. It's actually just want to give you a good example of, reflecting on our teaching and learning from it. Like I said, I should have chunked this down, so each checklist here should have been on its own Google Doc form. And the data that I got wasn't as valuable as it could have been because I didn't do that. Okay, if I would have chunked this down, the data would be invaluable. It would be perfect, exactly what I needed. But either way, you get to see a form or a reading checklist form. So if they're using prior knowledge, check, got it. As he's reading, looking for these strategies. Self-corrected, boom, I just saw him self-correct. Self-correcting words, self-correcting sentences, rereading, making predictions, forming opinions, paraphrasing, summarizing. So these are all different strategies that we look for in good readers and we try to teach. So if these are the things I'm looking for, I better be sure that I'm giving mini lessons that really explicitly teach how to do these things. But here is our checklist. Our checklist, we can keep track of everything right there. Some teacher evaluation. My PLC, we came up with an evaluation to make sure we are on time. Here's my 3rd grade PLC evaluation form. We just want to keep track. Hey, did we start on time? Did we end on time? The other option is, was there some sort of circumstance that, made it so we weren't starting on time, we weren't ending on time? We want to keep track. Did we stick to the agenda? Did we achieve our desired outcome? This is all important to keep everybody in line in the PLC and make sure that we're structured and we're progressing and we're doing what's in the best interest of our students. Teacher evaluation form. We've discussed this in previous discussion boards, and this is just the Jameson School Teacher Walkthrough Observation Feedback form. It's actually changed a little bit and been adapted since then, but we have a rigid teacher evaluation program. Each teacher receives a 10-minute drop-in, 10 to 15-minute drop-in from the principal, and these happen 10 times a year. So you never know when the principal is dropping in, and he'll be looking for these things. So this is just the template, but at the top you might have Ms. Doe teacher walkthrough evaluation form, and this form can be shared with the teacher. What my principal does, he uses his iPad, and he comes in and he can take video. He can upload that video to YouTube and embed right here an actual link of the teacher teaching so they can see themselves teaching, which is really cool. That's the best way to see yourself in action. But this is just an example of a form that our district is using, and this form, as I said, is being adapted kind of as we speak. It's a work in progress. So teachers can be evaluated and receive instantaneous feedback, and this information can be shared with the superintendent. So some data tracking, and this is actually some of the data, how it's presented to you, and this came from the checklist that I showed you earlier, and I told you we'd be looking at some of this data. So if you take a look on the right is what the piece I really like. It tells you the percentages. So if I'm looking for reading strategies, this tells you the percentage of the time that they're using these strategies. So if I look over here, this is kind of alarming to me, 43%. Of course, I'm not quite sure that we paraphrase a ton. It's really when the teacher asks. However, I might take a look at this and say, okay, well, 43% of the time they paraphrase. Maybe that's something that I need to start thinking of in my mini lesson. That's obviously an area that I'm not hitting because my student's not paraphrasing. So let me think about my lessons going forward and what I can do. Just some more examples of data tracking. This right here, just so you know, is from, as I said before, my ESL intervention. This is one student, ND. This is his reading performance. These are things that I observed. And looking at the data, it's terrific data, but at the same time, like I told you, I should have broken this down into different different reading checklists. So I was really looking for honing in on these things, because in a half an hour block, it's really hard to look at their comprehension and to look at their reading performance overall, then to look at their story retelling. I was trying to do too much and look at too much. Looking over here, this student, you can tell right here, reports events in chronological order. He had a hard time here. So I observed this in what I was in my teaching, and I knew he was having a hard time recalling events in chronological order, and my data proved that right here, 57% of the time. Starts retelling at the beginning. He also had a hard time identifying what was at the beginning, which ties into the chronological order of things. But he was strong in naming the main character, identifying problem issues, identifying major events, in describing the resolution. He needed a little help, but he did a good job. Now, this supported what I was finding throughout. I knew that he was having a hard time starting retelling stories at the beginning. Look, that shows my data, 29%. I knew that. He also had a hard time reporting events chronologically. Look over here, 57%. So what I know, I can go into a PLC meeting, and we're evaluating data that week, because our PLC, we have structure of what we do, and we talk about specific students. So I could come in and say, yeah, he's having a hard time retelling stories, and he's having a hard time talking about events in chronological order. Terrific. Show me the data. I don't have it. I don't know. That's just what I think. This right here gives you the data you need to support what you're saying. We have to have data. And then next, how to create a Google Doc form. I will explain here how to create a form, but I'll also include in my on the discussion board a link to my website that explains this in detail. Go to docs.google.com after you've created this account. Teachers, administrators, if you want to sign up for a Google app EDU, you can do that, and it's free. Okay, but teachers, if you just want to have your own Google account right now, okay, and you can create all these documents, everything is private. I don't share with anybody but the principal and people on my RTI team, and also those teachers of the students. So you can decide who you share with. So after you've created your account, you need to go to create and press on form. you simply press add item button. You can decide what type of question you'd like to ask here. Text, paragraph, text, multiple choice check boxes, choose from list, scale, or grid. I've enjoyed using the text and checkbox features, although you'll want to use what works well for you in your own personal preference. One cool thing I did was create a read and checklist like I just showed you using the checkbox features. So once this form is complete, you will need to select email this form in the top right. Okay. After emailing the form to yourself, you need to choose the device you want to use the assessment from. So I like to use my iPad, and I also like to use my iPhone. Makes it really easy. Okay. You could also use this form straight from your computer, but if you're saying, hey, it's easier for me to be in my iPhone because it's small and I can carry it and it's always in my pocket, I'm going to teach you right now how to put this on your iPhone or iPad home screen. So what you want to do is email this form to yourself like I just said, and from your iPad or iPhone, go ahead and open your email. Once the form is opened in Safari, press on that little arrow that's right next to the URL. And again, if you read my blog, this will be a lot more clear and easier for you. You will now find the link on your home screen. So what I like to do is create subfolders for each one right on my screen. That way I could say Little Johnny's reading forms. If you have other forms for Little Johnny, you could put them all in one little folder. Okay, so that's my presentation on Google Forms. Thank you guys for checking it out, and I look forward to some feedback. And good luck the rest of the semester as we finish up here. Take care, guys.